All right, hello and welcome to Online Office Hours with the Smithsonian Learning Lab. My name is Tess Porter and I'm a digital content producer and educator at the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access, the office behind the Smithsonian Learning Lab. I'm looking forward to being here with you today for the next hour. If this is your first time joining us, we hold these office hours every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. Let me move over to my slides here. If you'd like to keep updated with our schedule, you can go to the URL on the screen. That'll bring you to our events page, though we also list our online office hours sessions and links on the homepage as well. And I'd be happy to show you where that is if you need it. So if this is your first time joining online office hours, the purpose of this hour is for me to help you with whatever you need with the Smithsonian Learning Lab. Whether you have questions about what the Learning Lab is and how it works, whether you're looking for help finding a particular type of resource or collection, one of those interactive learning experiences on a particular subject, or if you're looking for some technical help with some of the lab's features, like if you're looking for help building a collection for the first time or embedding a collection onto your own website, I'm happy to help with all of that. I'm watching the chat throughout today's session and will be answering questions as they come in. As you're watching at home, there are a few different ways you can submit questions. If you're joining us on YouTube, you can submit questions using the chat box, which you'll see to the right or below the video on YouTube. And if you're joining us on Facebook, you can submit questions using the comment box located below the screen. So without further ado, I'm going to navigate over to the Smithsonian Learning Lab, which is located at learninglab.si.edu. As questions come in today, I'll be screen sharing to help you with whatever you need. I can demonstrate step-by-step the process of how to answer your particular question. All right, so here we are in the Learning Lab. And yeah, as I mentioned, because there's no real agenda for today, I'm going to start off with a quick introduction to what the Learning Lab is and how it works as a brief overview. But then once I'm done, I'll pause for a moment to see if any questions come in. But please feel free to ask questions at any time. So if this is your first time in the Learning Lab, it's a free site designed for teachers and students, but available for anybody to use. And it's designed as a portal to discover digital museum resources from across the Smithsonian and beyond. These resources include things like objects, like artwork, like photographs that you'd find within a museum's galleries, but also include multimedia resources like video and audio recordings, primary source documents, blog posts and articles, and a whole lot more. You can pull these together to create collections or interactive learning experiences to use with whatever learning group you're hoping to use it with. There are tools in the lab that can help you do a few different things. You can include quiz questions. You can highlight areas of an image with hotspot, all different ways to kind of engage learners with the resources that you're pulling together. And finally, you can share what you create with others, whether it's your colleagues, your students. If you'd like to embed an interactive version of a collection on your own website, you can do that too. So for those of you watching today, if any of those sound particularly intriguing, I'd be happy to help. Again, you can answer questions at any time using either the chat box on YouTube or the comment box located below the video on Facebook. I'm happy to help you with whatever you need. As I wait for the first question to come in, I'm going to turn off my camera briefly, but I will be back as soon as I receive the next question. So I'll see you soon. All right, I see we received our first question. Hi, Deborah. It's been a while. Let me pull up your question here. Deborah asks, can an interactive collection be embedded within Blackboard? Yes, it can, though a little bit differently. So the best way to link to a collection within Blackboard is to simply use the hyperlink. So copying the URL and including it within Blackboard. I am not positive if the embedding feature of the Learning Lab will work in Blackboard, though I think it's absolutely worth trying. And for those of you watching at home, I will show you where that code is. So you can either try it out on Blackboard or embed a collection into a website of your own. As I'm answering this question, Steve, I want to let you know that I do see yours. Yes, I am standing by for questions. So if you have a question at any time, please feel free to enter it within the chat. I'm going to navigate to the most recently published collections on the lab. This is kind of a trick that I use to see what are the most recently published collections. On the homepage, if I go down to the Create section, either by scrolling or just clicking on the Create button, it will bring me to a search bar that'll put me right out to all of the published collections on the lab. I could search for a particular keyword here, say if I wanted to see collections connected to dogs, but if I'd like to see everything, I'll click on the magnifying glass here. And this will show me everything. So there are over 6,000 collections currently in the lab. I'm going to have a look at this one here from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. So say if I'd like to embed this collection on my own website, maybe it's a website I'm using with my students. To do so, there are a few buttons in the upper right-hand side of the page, different buttons that'll help me interact with this collection in different ways. If I click the Share button, which is 3 interconnected dots, it'll open up a little panel, which will give me a few different options for sharing my collection. But that embed code I was talking about is located right here. If I click copy the code, it'll copy it directly to my clipboard. So again, Deborah, I'm not sure, but I think it's worth trying. And again, it's good to hear from you. I see we have another question here from Lizeth. Lizeth asks, how can I put a video in a collection? That's a great question. So to add a video into a collection that you're working on, you'll want to first navigate to that collection. I'm going to navigate to one of mine that I'm working on. So I'm logged into my account right now. A quick note, if this is your first time in the lab, you don't need an account to navigate through the Learning Lab and view resources and collections available on the site. But if you'd like to start creating your own content and creations and collections, that's when you'll want an account. So I'm logged in, and when I'm logged in, I can navigate to my collections by clicking the sunburst in the upper right. This will give me a few different options. I'll click Collections here on the right panel to load the collections on my account. This will take a moment as I've been pretty busy in the lab. I have quite a few published and unpublished collections. So give it a moment to load here. While this loads, I just wanted to take this moment to say, if you're just joining us, we're in the middle of online office hours. I'm here to answer questions about the lab. I'm in the middle of answering a question now. If you have a question, please feel free to enter it in the chat. I'm watching the chat on my end, and I'm answering questions as they come in. So my collections page loaded. It'll first show you all of your published collections. But to view unpublished collections, say ones you're still working on, you'll navigate to this My Unpublished Collections tab. And then let's go into this collection I was working on. I'm trying to pull together a collection focused on heroes in ancient Greek myth as represented in art. And I'm still trying to figure out how to pull it all together. All right, so here's my collection I'm working on. The first step to uploading a video from another website, say YouTube or Vimeo, is to go into Edit Collection. This will put me into edit mode, where I can make a whole variety of changes to my collection. It'll let me know I'm in edit mode because of the green bar at the top of the screen. This will autosave every minute. You can keep track of that up here, and you can exit out of edit mode at any time using the save and exit button. So to upload a video resource, the first thing I'm going to do is click the Add Resource button, which is located both at the top of your collection and at the bottom. So this will take a moment to load too, because I've also been busy favoriting resources. I think I have the most favorites on the lab, and I have broken it a couple times. But I find favorites as a great way to kind of save onto an interesting resource that I'm not quite sure how to use yet, but I'd like to kind of save for later to come back to and keep thinking about. So give it a moment to load there. So as this loads, you can see when I click the Add Resources to Collection button, it gives me a few different options. The first option it'll give me is to add directly from my favorites. I can also enter search here to add resources in bulk to my collection. I can add a standalone feature, which takes a few different forms, like a standalone text annotation that'll appear as kind of a standalone text tile within my collection, or quiz questions that appear by themselves, which I like to use when I'm kind of entering some introductory or conclusion questions at the kind of beginning or end of my collection. You can also add a sorting activity here as well, which will enable learners to either sort resources into categories that you define, or align the endpoints of which you define. And since it's taking a moment here, I don't want to hold you too long. Oh, it knew I was getting impatient. All right, so to upload an external resource, whether it's from another website, like say if you wanted to link out to a page on the Library of Congress's website, or if you wanted to pull in a video, or if you want to upload a resource from your computer, you'll click on the Add a Resource button in the middle here with an arrow headed up like you're uploading something. Here, it'll first ask you to enter the title and description of your resource. The title is required, the description is not. And then it'll give you two options down here. To upload a video, you'll want to click the I want to contribute a website/URL button. And then you'll want to paste your YouTube video or Vimeo video URL here. Once you do so, and then click the blue Add button, it'll upload into your collection and become playable directly within your collection. So learners don't have to navigate out to view the video you created. So I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if you have any kind of further questions. And then I see I have another question here from Steve. Let me pull it up. Steve asks, can you demonstrate how to collate a mix of Learning Lab resources into one presentation? For example, a project is to design your own tour of the National Museum of Natural History. Yes, I can absolutely do that. What I'll do is give a demonstration of how to search for particular resources, and I can show how to search for both resources related to a key term and for resources from a particular museum. And then I'll show how to kind of aggregate those into a Learning Lab collection. And as I'm going through, if you have any clarifying questions, don't hesitate to let me know. So I'm going to back out of edit mode. And I'm actually going to just go back out to the home page instead of saving. So to search for resources to build into a Learning Lab collection, the first thing you'll want to do is look for the search bar, which is located in the upper left of every page on the Learning Lab. This is the search bar that you'll use to find both resources and collections that others have created and made public on the site. So say if I was building a tour of resources at the National Museum of Natural History, I might think about coming into this with a search term of a particular subject area. Say if I was looking for botanical specimens. I could also go in and do a search for the museum itself. I'm going to look for botanical specimens, and I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to do minerals, because I think I just love the mineral collection at their museum, and I think it'll be a good demonstration of how this works. So I can do a search for broadly minerals, or I could do a search for a specific mineral type. And I'm going to hide your question for a moment, Steve, so I can show kind of the entirety of my screen. So when I do a search, depending on what I search for, it'll show me either a small amount of things or very many. For minerals, I got over 25,000 results, which is great, but a lot to go through. There are a few different ways I can think about narrowing this down. First, with my search terms, minerals is a really broad term that, of course, refers to many different things and very many specimens. I could go into this with a particular mineral in mind. Say I want to see all of the bismuth specimens that the Natural History Museum has. But there are also tools in the lab that can help me narrow down my search. Those are located on the left-hand side of the screen. If they're hidden, I'll click the Refine Search button. Here, I can refine my search by resource type. So I could say, I just want to see images of specimens, though I could also narrow by video as well. I can narrow by whether or not the resource is in the public domain, and there's more information about that here. I can also talk about it more if you're interested. Some museums track whether or not their resource is currently on exhibit, so you can experiment with using this as well. And then the National Museum of Natural History does something a little bit different than some of the other museums. So this final section, Resource Provider, enables you to refine your search by the museum it belongs to. Because the National Museum of Natural History collection, their resources are so immense, they have so many, they've chosen to add them here as divided by department. So here I could refine my search by the Mineral Sciences department. That's still going to bring me a lot of stuff because searching minerals and within the Mineral Sciences department will show me kind of all of their resources. So here, let me narrow this down, if I can spell. So here I'm going to have a look at all of kind of the specific resources related to bismuth in the National Museum of Natural History in the Mineral Sciences department. And it looks like I have some pretty great examples here. All right, so I found a resource that I want to aggregate into this tour I'm creating, and I'm ready to create my first collection. To do that, first, once I found a resource that I want to use, and I think this one is a pretty good example, there are buttons on the left-hand side of the page that'll let me interact with this in different ways, similar to, for those of you watching, when I showed a Learning Lab collection earlier. To create a new collection from a resource or to add a resource to an existing collection, I'll click on this button here, the one right underneath the information button with kind of 3 rectangles overlapping with a plus sign on top. This will first ask me if I want to add it to one of the collections I've already created. And if you're watching a little bit earlier, I have quite a few. Or it'll ask me if I want to create a new collection. When I create a new collection, it'll ask me to enter a title and description, but I can change those at any time. So typically when I get to this step, I create something temporary that I'm prepared to kind of come back and change later. And from that point, then you'll be able to continue adding resources to that collection. So let me, oh, here we are. Okay. All about minerals. This is TBD. I'm going to come back to it later. And then I'll click the blue Create Collection button. So again, I clicked on this button here once I found a resource that I wanted to add. I entered a title and description, and then I clicked the blue Create a Collection button to create my new collection. I'm going to add a couple more resources, and then I'll show you, Steve, how to find the new collection you create. So I can continue adding resources to my collection using the same button, which is visible both when you view the detailed view of a resource, but also kind of as you're perusing resources in search. And then when I'm ready to view my collection and continue working on it in, making more specific changes, like working on my description or rearranging resources or adding some interactivity, I'll go to the sunburst in the upper right. I'll go back to my collections page. And then I'll use this page to navigate to the new collection I'm working on. So I hope that helps, Steve, as kind of a beginning introduction on the first steps on how to search for resources and begin pulling them together into a Learning Lab collection, which can be as simple as an aggregation of resources similar to a presentation. You can also add in some interactivity using some of the Learning Lab tools and features, say to add descriptive text or create questions for students to answer. If you're interested in seeing any of those pieces, let me know. I would be happy to walk through them. I can also show an example as well shortly. But first, I want to pause for a moment. We're about 20 minutes into today's Smithsonian Learning Lab online office hours, which we hold every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. There's no agenda for this hour. It's really here for me to answer your questions, whatever they might be about the lab. So today already, I've talked about a few questions related to embedding collections, adding videos to collections, how to pull a new collection together. If you have any sort of question that you need help with, please let me know. You can enter questions in the chat box if you're joining us on YouTube, or using the comment box if you're joining us on Facebook. Steve, I see your next question. Yes, are there demos on the website? There are. So let me pull up a resource that I hope will be helpful to you, not only in approaching this question of building in interactivity, but also kind of using the Learning Lab more broadly. This is our Getting Started in the Smithsonian Learning Lab guide, which I'll pull up here. It is a PDF document that walks through all of the features of the Learning Lab, everything from how do you search for resources and collections, to how do I build in interactivity, to how do I embed a collection on another website. This walks through it step by step with screenshots and instructions. So this is a resource you can come back to kind of during today's office hours sessions, but afterward as well. You're welcome to share this URL with colleagues, with students. It's available to anybody, and it's also available on our site to download. But if you're interested, I'd be happy to give you kind of a step-by-step walkthrough of that now. Sometimes I know with me talking through it, I'm absolutely a learner that it's easier for me to learn when I see somebody walking me through it. Please let me know. The first step to doing it will be getting into edit mode on your collection. That's where you'll go to make any changes to this collection. And then clicking on the resource that you want to add some interactivity to. And again, Steve, let me know if you'd like me to walk through it by step by step. And your question reminded me of a collection that a teacher I know worked on with her students. She used the Learning Lab as a place for her students to create a collaborative digital exhibition, in this case about ancient Egypt, because she is a world history educator. But I thought it was a really great example of using the Learning Lab to kind of engage with students and use it as a platform to build a long-standing digital exhibition that had kind of a longer life than a presentation. So if you're interested in seeing that collection as well, let me know. I'd be happy to pull it up. If you're just joining us, I'm answering questions from the audience today about the Smithsonian Learning Lab, and I'm happy to help you with whatever questions you have about the site. Oh, great. I'm glad to hear it, Steve. I'm here to answer any questions you have about how to use the lab to search for resources, for collections, to use some of the lab's tools, and more. So you can enter questions at any time using the chat box if you're joining us on YouTube, or the comment box if you're joining us on Facebook. While I wait for the next question to come in, I'll go through the process of how you would add some information to one of these resources. It's really the same process that you would use to add questions to a resource or to add hotspots as well, which, as I mentioned, you can use to point out and annotate areas of interest on an image. So in my collection that I'm working on, to make changes, I'll click the green Edit Collection button to enter edit mode. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, when you're working in a collection that's unpublished, autosave will automatically be turned on, and your collection will autosave once every minute. You can keep track of that up here, and you can exit out of edit mode at any time using the Save and Exit button. So as I'm here in edit mode, there are a few different things I can do. If I'd like to add information to one of these resources, say if I'd like to talk a little bit about how this object would fit into the tour that I'm building, what I'll do first is click on the resource. Then you'll notice there's a paperclip icon in the upper left. You can use this to add something to this resource. So I'll click the paperclip button and then click the add button, and it'll give me a few different options. I can add text, quiz questions, or hotspots, and I'll do text. I'm going to write in some descriptive information now. You can really enter whatever information you want here. I've seen users use this to add, say, additional information about a resource, add questions, and more. It's really up to you and how you'd like to use it. You can add as many of these as you'd like. So maybe after following or first entering some information on why I'm including this object in my tour, I might think about adding some questions to help another user, a learner, kind of better understand or look closely at this object. As I work at these, I can rearrange them, clicking and dragging at the top of the screen to change the order. If I'd like to see what this looks like to another user, I'll exit out of edit mode. I'll click the done button in the upper right on that green bar, and then I'll click the save and exit button to exit out of edit mode. And then here, when I click on the resource I was just working on, I now see a paperclip attached to the resource with a 2 next to it, and I can find the 2 things I attached to it. So first is my draft question, and then second is my title and description. So I hope that's helpful, Steve, in kind of approaching how to use the Learning Lab to kind of aggregate a group of resources together into one collection that you might use as a presentation for a project, such as one designing your own tour of a museum. If you have any other questions, if you'd like me to go into more detail about any of these pieces or anything else, please let me know. I'm going to navigate back out to the home page for a moment. If you're just joining us, we're about halfway through today's online office hours with the Smithsonian Learning Lab. The purpose of this hour together is for me to answer your questions, whatever they might be about the lab. So I can help with things like searching for particular resources or collections on a subject if you're having any trouble. I'm happy to give a kind of general walkthrough of what the Learning Lab is and how it works and what you can find here. I can also go more in depth with particular tools. For example, if you'd like to see how the sorting activity works, I'd be happy to walk through that. Or if you have any other questions, I'm happy to help. So if you're joining us on YouTube, you can enter your question using the chat box, which you'll see to the right of the screen, Or if you're joining us on Facebook, you can ask questions using the comment box, which is located below the video. I'm watching questions as they come in, and I'm answering them as they come in. While I wait for the next question to come in, I'm going to turn off my webcam briefly, but I will still be here behind my computer. Good, Steve. I'm glad to hear this was helpful. I hope you have a good night too. And so yes, while I wait for the next question to come in, I'm going to turn off my webcam for a moment, but I will come back as soon as the next question comes in. So see you soon. Hi, if you're just joining us, welcome to Smithsonian Learning Lab online office hours. Frank, I see your question here. Yes, it is a live session. This is a session we hold every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. The purpose of this session is for me to answer your questions about the Smithsonian Learning Lab, whether you're looking for help finding resources or collections on a particular subject, if you're looking for more technical support, like if you need help with a particular tool of the lab, say if you want to learn how to create your own learning lab collection, or if you're looking for just a basic intro to what the site is and how it works, I'm happy to help with all of that. So if you have a question, you can enter it using the chat box if you're joining us on YouTube, or using the comment box if you're joining us on Facebook. I'm watching the chat throughout today's session, and we'll be answering questions as they come in. Already today, we've talked about ways to include links to Learning Lab collections on different platforms, adding videos to collections, and how to build a collection that might serve as a tour of a particular museum for an assignment. So if you have a question, please feel free to send it to me. I'm watching the chat on my end, even though sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. While I wait for the next question to come in, I think I'm going to turn off my webcam for a moment, but I will be back as soon as I receive the next question. So see you soon. All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Smithsonian Learning Lab online office hours. If you're just joining us for about 15 minutes from today, or the end of today's session, we hold these sessions every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. The purpose of these sessions is for me to answer your questions about the Smithsonian Learning Lab. I've been answering questions throughout the last 45 minutes that have been sent through either through the YouTube chat feature or the Facebook comment feature. Frank, I'm going to bring up your question now. Frank asks if I have an idea for a project that could possibly use Smithsonian content to help students and teachers gather data on natural resources in their local communities. Who should I speak with? You're welcome to reach out via the email I'm going to put up on the screen shortly. Give me a moment to find it. Yes. It's learning@si.edu. This is our central education email portal, and we'll send your inquiry to whoever at the Smithsonian is kind of best equipped to answer it. I'm not sure if you visited the Smithsonian Learning Lab before, but I want to kind of talk a little bit more about it in case it helps answer your question in approaching the project that you're working on. The Smithsonian Learning Lab is a free online platform designed for teachers and students, but available for anybody to use, where you can not only access digital resources from across the Smithsonian and beyond, all of our artwork, our objects, but also our video and audio recordings, documents, articles, and a whole lot more. So not only can you find all of those resources, but you can also build them into what we call collections, which are aggregations of resources for learning. They can take many different forms, whether it's something as simple as an aggregation of resources around a particular topic or theme. Perhaps it's a collection designed for other teachers to use, which includes resources alongside strategies or suggestions for using them for learning. Or perhaps the collection can take the form of a student activity that is designed for a student to use firsthand. So for this project that you're working on, if you have an idea for using Smithsonian content to help teachers and students gather data, I wonder if that might be a good fit for building a Learning Lab collection on the site. Really what this site is designed to do is to help educators use Smithsonian resources for learning. So on this site, you'll find many collections created by other educators, over 6,000 collections designed around a variety of themes. Some of these are also created by students, some are created by museum educators, some are created by teachers, some are created by community educators, and more. There's a lot here. So for this project, perhaps creating a Learning Lab collection will be able to help you do so. If you have any further questions, please let me know. And again, you're welcome to send your inquiry to the email that I've put up on the screen. I hope that helps, Frank. For the rest of you watching, if any of you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. I'm using screen sharing throughout today's session to walk through different features of the lab. So if you need help finding a particular resource or collection on a theme in particular, I'm happy to help. If you're looking for help with certain features of the Learning Lab, I'm happy to walk through how to use them step by step. I'm also happy to talk more about the Learning Lab in general. If any of you are interested in distance learning resources, we also have a landing page for that, which I'm happy to walk through. So again, if you have a question, please feel free to enter it either in the chat on YouTube or using Facebook's comment feature. I'm watching the questions on my end. Sometimes there is a little bit of delay from when you send them and when I see them, but I'm answering them as soon as they come in. While I wait for the next question to come in our last 10 minutes together, I'm going to turn off my webcam briefly, but I will still be here and I will come back as soon as I receive the next question. So I'll see you soon. Hi, Frank. I just saw your comment in the chat. I did see your question that began, if I have an idea for a project, but I didn't receive any other questions after that. If there is another question that you tried to enter, would you mind re-entering it in the chat? Must be a technical issue on Facebook's end. I'll keep an eye on the chat as I have my webcam off. For those of you who are watching, if you just joined us, I'm answering questions during today's session. You can enter your questions at any time using the YouTube chat or Facebook comment feature. While I wait for the next question to come in, I'm going to turn off my webcam briefly, but I will be back as soon as I receive the next question. Hi, Frank. I see your second comment. That was the question in particular. No worries. So I did answer that one on air. My answer for that was reaching out to the learning@si.edu email. That's a central education. Oh, I see your other comment that you didn't hear my answer. No problem. The good thing about this, I'll restate my answer to your question, but just so you know, this session will be archived. So you can go back and watch this session later. You can rewind, fast forward, and you'll be able to access that archived version at the same link you're watching it at now. So that same post on Facebook, the video will kind of stay there. It's not deleted afterward. So in response to your question, I'd recommend reaching out to the learning@si.edu email, which is our central education email. We'll be able to direct your inquiry to the kind of Smithsonian educator who's best equipped to answer it. So that's learning@si.edu. And then the second part of my answer to your question is that the Learning Lab might be a good fit for supporting this project that you're considering. The lab is a free platform that's designed to help any user access the Smithsonian's digital museum resources, the resources that we've digitized, and use them for learning. So on the site, you can not only search for and access resources across the Smithsonian, but you can also create kind of interactive learning experiences with them, what we call collections, and they can take many different forms. So it's possible that the lab, depending on what you're thinking about, might be a good platform to support and build out this project that you're considering, because it does use Smithsonian content. So if you're interested in learning more about the site, please feel free to enter another question in the chat. You can also reach out to us with that question at the email I put on the screen. I also wanted to share a resource that I shared a little bit earlier in today's session, which I think will be helpful in kind of learning how to use the kind of all of the features of the lab, everything from how to search for resources on the site, to how to build collections, to how to share them with others. That is the Getting Started in the Smithsonian Learning Lab Guide, which is located at the URL on the screen. It's also available on our distance learning resource page, which you can access via the homepage if you click on this banner. This will bring you to a page of distance learning resources from across the Smithsonian. And here, you'll be able to easily access that PDF guide, which goes through, as I said, all of the kind of basic and more advanced features of the Learning Lab. It's a PDF that'll go through it step by step with screenshots. So I hope this will be helpful to you in kind of moving forward from today if you're interested in using the Learning Lab further. However, you're also welcome to come back to office hours next week, and as you continue experimenting with the lab and learning more how to use it. I and my colleague Darren Milligan, who also hosts office hours, are happy to help with any questions you have moving forward. That sounds great, Frank. I see your comments. So yes, please keep in touch with us. I hope this document will help, and please feel free to come back. We're here every Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm just going to throw up the questions banner again. It looks like we have about 5 minutes left in today's online office hours with the Smithsonian Learning Lab. If you have any final questions before I sign off for today, I'm happy to answer them. Please feel free to send them through either the YouTube chat feature or the Facebook comment feature. In the last few minutes we have, I wanted to show you where you can keep updated with future online office hours sessions. Sorry, I just was doing mental calculations. So Joan asked a great question. Joan asked, is Frank's comment saved in YouTube? That is a great question, Joan. I believe that YouTube saves their chat in YouTube and Facebook saves their chat in Facebook. And so Frank's comments are only visible to YouTube viewers unless I pull them up here on the screen, and same with YouTube comments. So if you'd like to see all of Frank's comments, you can go to the Facebook post, which is located on our Smithsonian Education Facebook page. It's located right near the top. So it's a great question, Joan, and a good reminder to me as a facilitator to bring up all the questions that I'm addressing so that all participants can see them. So Frank is giving a little bit more information. The project is related to kids, adults, and senior citizens being homebound during the pandemic. That sounds like a really interesting project and is absolutely something that would be appropriate to build out on the Learning Lab. You know, we designed the lab with teachers and students in mind, but it's available for anybody to use and with any type of learner as well. So I think, yeah, it would be a good fit. And I hope that there would be a lot of resources available on the lab that would help support you. So again, as you continue building this out, please don't hesitate to be in touch with us via online office hours if we can offer any more support. As I was saying, the links to future online office hours sessions are available on the Smithsonian Learning Lab homepage. If you go to the Learn section, I've clicked Learn on the left-hand panel. It'll give me a few different resources, including our blog and our newsletter. But importantly for this, if you scroll down to Professional Development and Events, we link a few different resources here, including resources for distance learning with the Smithsonian, but importantly for this conversation, also our online office hours. So today's session is linked here. My colleague Darren Milligan is hosting next Tuesday's session, and then we will be posting the June calendar shortly. So that's a great place where you can kind of come back and keep updated. So no problem, Frank. I hope that was all helpful. So it looks like we are at the end of today's online office hours. They flew by, but it was great talking with you all, and I hope the resources I shared today were helpful. And again, my colleague Darren Milligan will be back next Tuesday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you all again soon in June.